Camilla, thank you so much for being here on the MomForce.
Yes, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. I'm excited to talk. Thank you.
Me too. Last night, I have to tell you this. Last night, I was in bed with my husband and he was trying to get my attention, but I was immersed in reading the Meet Camilla section on your Women of Today website. You have a fascinating life, and we can't get into all the details of that here today. You can go to her website and check that out. But I was so impressed with your storytelling. No wonder you are a published author now. Did you always have a
Oh,
love for writing?
look, I have a love of expressing, right? This writing thing is new to me. Okay, it's a new thing, and I'm trying to get better at it. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to learn more about it. Obviously, I'm from Brazil, born and raised, and then I moved here at age 15. So English is still my second language. I write long, as you saw it on the on that page in Women of
I
Today.
loved it.
But I do love the idea of, of expressing and allowing people to go in the journey with you. And I always feel like if people can feel it, then they're like, okay, I felt that. I get invested, they get invested on learning more about.
Yeah. Well, and I'm excited to talk more about your children's book, Just Try One Bite, which I'm sure grew out of a journey that you personally were on. But first, as I was reading your story, the story of a young girl moved from Brazil at the age of 15, as you said, not speaking any English, but coming to the US, working as a house cleaner for a living as you were chasing your dreams. Then to go on to be a successful model, entrepreneur, a fashion designer, an author, mother of three beautiful children, married to one of the most famous men in Hollywood. I kept thinking about how rarely what we think our life is going to be, does it really turn out to be that, right? Did you aspire to be all of these things as a young girl?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, I must say that if you told me that, when I was younger or my early 20s, that I'm going to write a kid's book, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. That would have
The
not
last thing on your mind.
that's a thing for me. So that part, no, but I must say that from a very young age, I wanted to be able to help people. I grew up with that mentality. That was really, my mom and my dad really kind of installed that in us growing up, from helping family members. We were the household that if family had problems or things, like everybody came to our home and stayed with us or lived with us and that kind of stuff. We always, as kids, we would, collect clothing in the neighborhood, collect things, go to the elder homes and give things, and homeless and things like. So we were always doing that. So growing up, I always knew that I wanted to do things that would help people in different ways. And I always had that like, that business spirit in me of like, any scientific mind of inventing things or wanting to do things differently or wanting to create businesses. I have like, I don't know, by the time I was 25, I had so many ideas of different businesses and things. I always joke that, like I wanted to do coconut water like back then. And I had no money. And I went to all my friends that had money at the time, and I pitched them the idea. Me and my brother, we founded coconut farms in Brazil and all that stuff. And nobody was like, everybody's like, you're crazy. Nobody will ever drink coconut water in America. I'm like, no, they will. They just don't know yet. We just have to do it right. And, and look where it is now. Right. So like, I've always had that spirit of, doing business. So to answer your question, what did I ever thought that I would be where I am now? No, because I've never had this thing of like, okay, I'm going to marry this kind of person, or I'm going to live in this city, or I'm going to do this way. But I did envision myself doing things that would help people in different walks of life. And I always imagine myself doing something with my life. I just didn't know, I never put the pressure of it has to be this or it has to be that. But in the journey, I'm like, okay, I need to do this. And I must say this, I always envision myself living by water.
Me too.
That has happened with the places that I live. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I live in Utah right now. I actually said I would never live anywhere that wasn't on the beach. And, like many things in my life, things haven't quite turned out the way that I thought. But
Look,
look,
I lived in New York City for many, many years doing modeling. And I said, I'm never leaving New York. Like, this is it for me. I'm never, because I lived in LA first and I moved to New York. And then I was like, I'm never going back to LA. I'm never leaving in LA ever again. And
mhm,
a few years later,
they
there I
never.
was, there
Yeah.
I was. That's that.
Well, it keeps life exciting, all the new twists and turns. But often, for me, when I find myself in a new situation that I hadn't planned on, I'm looking for a mentor or a role model, somebody to like see, okay, how did they navigate that? And for me, it was when I got married and I had my first baby. For some reason, I thought my husband was gonna go to work and come home at 5 p.m. and we were gonna have family dinner and enjoy our afternoons together. But that's not how it worked. He was working as a management consultant. He had very long hours. He traveled a lot. And my mom's incredible. She had 12 children, but my dad was an attorney.
Well, kids.
I know, seriously. She's amazing, but their family life was very different from the life that I was building for myself. And I was looking for people to kind of see, how did you do this? How did you handle the having a husband gone and traveling a lot? Especially, that transition from single life to motherhood. There's just so many new things. For you, as you were finding yourself in these new phases of life and unexpected, little turns in the road, did you have a role model or mentor that helped you along the way? Maybe even specifically as you transitioned into motherhood?
Yeah, so I've had many different role models for different circumstances in my life. And I do think that that's an important thing to bring it up, because whether you're young or older, whether you're looking for, your role model to be somebody younger than you or somebody older than you or somebody on the same page, I think that it's important to say that, we go through so many changes. We go in life, we go through so many stages. And it's okay to have different role models as you go, into different stages of different things. My mom is definitely one, but we've have had you know, challenging times in our relationship. But I have friends, and usually they're older than me,
Hmm.
that have, accomplished things in their lives in ways that I really respect and appreciate. And and when I say that, it's not necessarily what they accomplished money wise, or things that you can touch it with your hand,
Yeah.
but it's more how they run their household, how their kids turn out, how they're still able to work, but their kids are good. You see what I'm saying? Like, I always go like, okay, you work. I have this one friend, and she's amazing, and she works a lot. She works with her husband and all this stuff, but her kids are so good. So I'm always like, okay, how do you do it? I'm like taking notes, always like, okay, let me learn this, let me learn that, let me be around a little more. So yes, I have had many role models in my life in different ways, but I feel like it always changes depending what life is throwing at me.
Yeah, totally. I was the same, looking for the families who seem like they've got it all together and the kids are, following the program and doing all those things. I have to say, being like an older mom now, I have 7 kids. My oldest is 26. My youngest is
How do
14.
you even went into 7? How is that even
It's in
like?
my crazy mun's blood. My mom, there's a bit of my mom flowing through me, okay? But I have learned
Because I do have to ask you this,
what.
because I have 3,
Uh-huh.
right? And I have so many friends that go, just go for the 4th, have another one. And they all say, once you have 3, like the 4th, the 5th, it's a breeze. And I'm like, I'm not sure I believe you on this one. So what is your take on it?
My first instinct is to say you'll never regret having another baby.
Mhm.
And it gets a little bit harder when they're little, but when they get to be teenagers and young adults, I mean, this is the phase that I'm in right now. And I will admit, the thought crossed my mind a couple weeks ago, what have I done? Like, these big kids have such bigger problems, and it is totally overwhelming. But when you see them bonded together, just for my kids were all together just for the couple weeks last month, and the relationships they have and the way they lean on each other and strengthen each other, I mean, that's what it's all about. So
That's beautiful.
just
That's
more
amazing.
for them to love.
As they get older, I'm on pre-teenage years, and one it's a teenager right now. The situations do get more complex and bigger. And and I feel like everybody talks about, okay, baby, really hard work, physical, and then people talk about, oh, if you have a troubled teenager, all this stuff. But nobody really, I don't know. I didn't have many people talking to me about that middle stage of like, you don't have to have a troubled teenager to be really hard and really challenging. Like this stuff, at the end of the day, I'm like, I need my glass of tequila. Let me sit down here for a little bit.
Yes. Well, and a point that I just wanted to make is, and I'm learning, is that you can do all the things, in your family to produce the outcome that you want, but every child, they're free to make their own choices, and it's not ultimately a reflection of what you do or don't do. You can set yourself up for success, but then they ultimately get to decide that the path they go on, and it has nothing to do with you.
Very true. You create the environment to where it can maybe affect them, right, on the decisions. But to your point, eventually they have their free will, and they are the ones that are going to make the decisions. Yeah.
Yep. So as we're parenting, we often think about how we were raised and, the impact that our parents have on us. It's hard to underestimate when you bring two people together that came from two totally different lives and you're trying to create this new, like, unified family culture that can be challenging. I know you started business with your mother.
Yes.
Is that true? So I started my business with my husband. There is like layers of complexity in working together, as family members. But what did you take from your relationship with your mother, and maybe even your Brazilian culture, that has helped strengthen your family and impacted your motherhood?
To your point, it's always challenging to work with a family member. It just is, because there's so many layers that comes with and all of that, right? But I think that at the end of the day, that understanding that family is family, blood is blood. And in Brazil, coming from Brazil, that relationship, it's so rooted in our culture, right? Like on your summers, you traveling with you're going to your grandmother's house, your vacations, you're going to see family. Like, you don't go to a camp. Like, the idea of going to a camp for me, I just now came around that idea because it's not in our culture. Like, it doesn't exist, So I think that really the importance of, and I talk to the kids a lot about this, that at the end of the day, no matter what happens, they're brother and sister. Like, at the end of the day, we are our unit in our family, and anything that comes around, it's going to come, it's going to go, things are going to happen, but that unit, it's never going away, no matter what happens, right? So I think that it's something that the understanding of that, it's important, and and I think it does make a big difference that, no matter what, no matter if you get mad at each other, no matter if you're not liking what that person is doing, it's not going away. It's there.
We talk about being all in on each other in our family. I mean, that's everything. But now that I mentioned my kids are getting older, we're actually bringing new family members in. I have two children who are married, and that in-law dynamic is a whole new thing. And I am trying very carefully to be a very good mother-in-law, but I've seen the relationship you have with your mother-in-law, and it seems incredible. Like, what is your secret there? Actually, we got a question on the MomForce. We have a community called the MomForce on Facebook, and I mentioned that I was going to be chatting with you and asked, do you have any questions for Camila? And this question was actually submitted. It says, it looks like you have a great relationship with not only your own mom, but Matthew's mom as well. At times I struggle with the way my mother-in-law does things. How have you made it work over the years?
Yes. So look, in a weird way, I actually have a better relationship with Matthew's mom than my mom.
Really?
Yes. And I think it goes in terms of personality because, one thing, I shouldn't say the culture of Brazil, but South Americans, we could be, very guilt driven with things, raised Catholic, all that thing. And I think because I left home so early, I left home at 15, and I've lived in so many different places. I've been in so many different countries, lived in so many different countries. I just got exposed to so much early on in my life that I think that I've tried to break the chain out of that guilt thing. It's still there. It's still there. But and my mother-in-law doesn't have that. She doesn't hold on into things. Now, she's not easy. She's very, very, very strong personality. And I think that for everybody that, like this question that you got, it seems like she's struggling with some things. I think the thing to understand is that it takes time. My relationship with my mother, just like any other relationship, my relationship with my mother-in-law was like, in the beginning, was really hard. I mean, we made this joke. I actually just told this the other day to some friends with her on the table, and she was trying to get away with it. I was like, no, 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 no. You're not getting away with this one. You did that. Take ownership of it, right? Because in the beginning, she used to mess with me so bad. I mean, so bad, to the point where she would call me all of Matthew's ex-girlfriends' names.
Boy. On purpose?
Yes, on purpose. And
Oh.
then she'll be like, well, but you look so much like Penelope. And I was like, no, we don't. The only thing we have in common is that we have dark hair. Like, no, we don't. And I don't look like Sandra Bullock. And I don't look like this person. And I don't look like Jennifer Lou. And I don't look like this, like, like she's blonde. Like, what are you? I was like, no, take ownership. You used to mess with me like crazy. And she really did. And I had to have my rite of passage with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a thing that some relationships with in-laws have, that, it's almost like, I know with my mother-in-law, I had to go through my rite of passage of like, of being strong enough where she knew she couldn't push me around. And when we had that, from that day on, I remember our relationship changed, and how she looked at me, it changed. And how our conversations changed, like it all changed. Now, it's a constant work, right? So like we have days that it's easy breezing, is fantastic. And then we have days that, we rub each other off a little bit the wrong way. But the not holding the grudge, this is the biggest thing that I can say. If you're able to have your life and understand your mother-in-law's life, or understand your daughter-in-law's life, and understand how they do things. And if you're able to add to it instead of trying to change, because I see that that's when conflict happens. Because you have somebody that's really experienced, that's done their life, that's gone through, like you. I mean, gosh, you have 7 kids. It's got to be terrifying for anybody coming into, your life, to that it's going to have kids soon or whatever it is, and have you like with all this experience at the same time that they're trying to figure out how to do their own way, right? So I think that really like understanding where each other is and going, how can I make it better? How can I add to it, instead of going, you're not doing it right, let me, let me fix this, or let me do that, And even like my mother-in-law has this thing, like, to this question that you have, where it's, my mother-in-law does things in ways that, make, what's the word that she used? Annoys her, or make her.
I struggle with the way my mother-in-law does things. Yes.
You got to pick your battles, right? So like, I have certain battles with my mother-in-law that I've tried to explain to her, and I've tried to tell her, hey, this is important for me. And it really bugs me when you do that. And some of them, she gets it and she understands and she goes. And some of them, literally 5 minutes after we talk, she's doing it.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to go, you know what? You're not going to win all the time. It's a balance. Let it go. Let this one go. You got the other one, So I think it's creating a balance, and know that it's really, really important to meet people where they are, and how can I add versus what can I fix?
Yeah. It's okay to agree to disagree. And For me, it's just assuming good intent. Like that's the way it's worked with my mother-in-law. But I totally hadn't thought about the point that you brought up that, you know, the daughter-in-laws that are joining our family, they might be a little intimidated by my experience and all that I'm doing. And I need to be sensitive to that too and assume the best from them. And it's okay that expectations aren't always reality and we just love each other.
And I think that it's important, like that I mean, you just let them know that you there to
Yeah.
help if they want to.
Yeah.
Like how do you're there to support. You're not there to tell them what to do or how to change things. It's just, hey, I have experience, but my time was different than yours, but some stuff kind of still the same.
Yeah.
So, if you ever want to, talk about it or chat, or get experience on that, here to help, you know what I mean? But also wanting to learn the new ways, right?
Right. Exactly. Um, One of the things that I talk about at this phase of parenting older kids is it's the consultant parent. That's the role that we're in now. We can ask, would you like my advice on this? But as a mother-in-law, I'm never going to say, hey, you should do it this way
Yeah.
because, there's a million ways to do things. There's no one right way to be a parent. I really, truly believe that. A lot of the things that you shared about how you strengthen your relationship with your mother-in-law, I think could be applied to marriage too, because that can be tricky, right? Like marriage takes work. And this was a hot topic in our MomForce community recently about, what's the secret to your marriage? And so I wanted to ask you that question, Camilla. What is the secret sauce or the secret to your marriage?
You know what? It's a funny question, right? Because I feel like so many people have so many different answers to that. But I think that the fundamental thing that boils down to it's really having respect for your partner and keeping that curiosity alive.
Mm,
Keeping that, people say keep the fire alive, keep but
yeah.
for me, keeping that curiosity alive of how the both of you can still evolve
Yeah.
and love each other in that evolution. Because I think if you go with love in terms of an adventure of then it makes the harder times a bit easier,
Hmm.
right? I do think that it's extremely important to get both sides comfortable with what they are uncomfortable about each other. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
For instance, I need to talk. Like if I have something in my mind that is bugging me, I need to talk. I need to put it out. I need to get it out. Um, and my husband is not, he's like, oh, do we really need to talk about it? I'm like, yes, we do. Because if we take this time and we talk about it, and I know that you're going to be drained out after, but I know you can get out of that, state of mind afterwards, but it's going to help us get to the next stage much easier, much faster, much of that. So like it took us a while, but now like I'm more comfortable of going, okay, I need to talk. We need to, to where now is not a heavy thing. We can go through things like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's evolve. Okay, great. Okay, next, right? Kind of thing. So whatever it is, the things that make you uncomfortable about your partner, I think it's important to get to the point where it makes it comfortable, to where it's not as big of a deal as it needs to be.
Right. And it feels like a service. Like I'm sure those long conversations aren't his favorite, but because he loves you and he wants to serve you and meet you where you are, he's
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah. And also like, understanding where each other is, like it's two different individuals that trying to build a life together. And as years pass, as situations in life comes, things change, the environment around changes, the situations changes. So taking little pauses individually to go, you know what, we're going through this. What does that change from my partner?
Yeah.
How does it affect him or her?
Hmm.
Right. And I'm guilty of a lot, sometimes just not even thinking about that, of just going, it's hard for me. So what do I need? What I need to change, what I need to do, whatever it is. And not pausing and going, man, if it's hard for me, then it's gotta be hard for the
Yeah.
person on my side too.
I love how you said it's about curiosity because I think so many times, especially, as busy working mothers, we have so many things going on and we're like in our own head with our own to-do lists. And especially if you've been in a relationship for a long time, you're like, I got him figured out. I know everything about him. I know what he's thinking, right? So if we turn off that curiosity, we're going to stop wondering, like, how is this impacting him? How is he feeling? Like, what new and exciting things going on in his brain? Because they're involving just as we are.
Exactly, exactly. And it's to a default when you are in long relationships that sometimes you don't have those conversations anymore. And then all of a sudden the conversations become just the daily routine.
Yeah.
And you're not having those interesting conversations. I mean, I'm guilty of going, man, I'm so boring right now. Like I need to, you know, figure out some cool conversations to have with my husband.
Yeah.
So it's like, so you do, I think curiosity, it's a good thing. And doing things that take you guys a little bit outside of of the everyday that keeps going. New experiences are always really cool for that too.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Camilla, I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about the
Right.
idea that, yes, just try one bite. The idea that sparked this book, because I have to say, I never in a million years thought I was going to be an entrepreneur, just like you didn't think you were going to be the author of a children's book. But we built our business chapbooks out of a need that I had because I had 7 kids. I was a diehard scrapbooker with my oldest kids. And then baby number 7, no scrapbooks, no photo books, no printed photos. I had to create a solution, build a
Yeah.
company to solve a problem I had. So I'm wondering, is there a really good story behind the idea that this book, like, was there a particular showdown at the McConaughey dinner table that sparked this book?
Look, I'm going to tell you that it has been multiple showdowns
Oh,
around
good. I'm so relieved.
our dinner table. But, truth be told, the idea, behind this book really came about, I was sitting down talking to somebody about how important it is to continue to have this conversation of doing better for ourselves, doing better for our families, but without being preachy, without being, telling people what to do. And that realization, actually with doing, I was part of this business, Yummy Spoonfuls, which was, frozen baby and kids food. And I've learned so much in that journey. And I'm like, how can I continue? Once I stepped out of the company, I was like, how can I continue that conversation that is so important without telling people what to do, without starting another company? And I was like, the thing that is most important, because you can start companies, you can have great products, you can have all of that, but if people are not going to the stores and grabbing those products, or if people are not having the conversations at home, it's not going to really change much.
Mhm.
So I was like, you know what, a kid's book, it's a fun way and to have that conversation without the pressure. And I want it to be funny. I want it to be engaging. I wanted to give the kids the power. So we went into a reverse roles. So this book is like, the biggest joy of this book is that it's reverse roles. Most times it's the parents telling the kid, right? Just try one bite. Come on. I've done that thousands of times with my kids. But in this book is actually the kids getting after their parents in a fun, funny kind of rap music, rap. It's almost like a little rap as you read it, all rhymes. So really the passion really came on, not telling people what to do, but yes, telling people that conversation of what's good for you, what's not good for you, the relationship with food should really start early on in life with your kids. Because if you do that, most likely you are setting up your child to have a lifelong of good habits.
Yeah.
And that will make the world of difference as they as they go through their journey.
So have you personally always been passionate about healthy eating and clean eating? I know on your Women of Today website, everything looks healthy and organic and beautiful. Kids don't care about that, right? Maybe babies, toddlers are more likely to eat healthy, and then they turn 2 and they're like, nope, I want nuggets and toast and mac and cheese.
Well, let me tell you this. Kids don't care about that if they don't know.
Okay.
So like with my kids, I started having this conversation with them very early on. And right now, like my daughter's 12. Just 2 days ago, I came down because now they make the breakfast throughout, and we have, throughout the week. I do it on the weekends, stuff like you guys are in charge of your own breakfast. So I came down and she was making pancakes, and Matthew was actually like, hey, you know what? Like I was here with her, and it was a great moment that she was questioning if this pancake mix was actually okay to use, if it was something good for her or not, and looking at the ingredients and all that, but in a healthy, easy way, her having the ownership of actually caring for that. And I think that a lot of times we forget to give our kids the ownership. We just tell them, hey, do this because of that. I'm guilty, I've done that too. But at least for my kids, I've seen that when they have their ownership and when they have the knowledge, then they do care. They do start having those conversations pretty early on. For me, to answer your question, in terms of if I always was, into that, not really. So the reality is I come from a family of farmers. So the understanding of, my dad is farming to today. We have a farm together in Brazil. So the understanding of where food comes from, how it grows, how it works, the process of getting, from seed to your table has always been extremely strong with me growing up. But the relationship with better for you, we didn't really have that conversation. So like, for instance, sugar, for me growing up, I could have as much sugar as I wanted. It wasn't a conversation. Hence, what do I still struggle with as an adult? Sugar. That's like my biggest struggle with food.
I always thought that if you told your child no sugar, this is a sugar-free house, then your kids become sugar monsters because they're desperate to get it outside of your home.
Yes, but this is the same thing that we're talking on the book. We're not telling you you can't have ice cream. We're just telling you not every day. Just more now and then. Hey, have a great meal and then have your donut house if you need, but it's a moderation. It's not about being perfect, right? But if you understand, like even like my little one now, because we've had these conversations enough times and it takes multiple conversations, but right now he will go to a bakery where in the past he will go, can I please have, the whole counter? Now he goes, no, I want this and the cookie and I'm good. This is enough. That's enough sweets for me, enough sugars for me. And he still has his cookie. He still has his brownie, just not the whole, the whole thing, which for me, I have the hardest time. If you put me in front of this Brazilian dessert brigadeiro, I'll eat the whole plate. You don't want to sit down,
You and I, we're the same there.
Not good.
Well, is there something that your kids just refuse to eat? Like something that's healthy that probably should be part of their diets that you've just accepted, okay, they don't eat such and such. Is there something like that for them? And is there something like that for you? We're
Yeah.
reversing roles. Like maybe there's something mama doesn't want either.
Yes, look, you have 7 kids. You know that they all go through different stages at different times. I have stages that I go, yes, I was like, pat in the back. Okay, you did it. They're eating healthy. They're good. And right when I get into that space, boom, they hit, one of them gets into a stage that I'm like, okay, here we go again. Like they just go to different stages and it keeps changing. What it is, so like my daughter's in a really picky stage right now. We were talking over dinner last night, and she's like, yeah, I've always been like that. And we're like, no, you haven't. You're going through a stage. We're going to respect that. Your brother went through it. He's out of it. So we're going to respect and keep going. But what we did was, and my mother-in-law used to do this. So we have adopted in our household, which they all get to have a throw up vegetable.
Okay. That means if they eat it, they'll barf. So don't make them eat it.
Exactly. So like, hey, this is your throw up vegetable. You don't have to have it. So anytime we cook it, you don't have it to have in your plate. But besides that, anything that's in your plate, you have to at least try a little bit of it. You have to have a list. Just try one bite of it, right? Yeah. So that's been working out well right now for us. I don't know how long it will last. It's been working out well, but I gotta tell you this, that my daughter has chosen spinach. Mm-hmm. And the other day I was cooking pasta and I was like, you know what, let me just give it a try on this. And I like did it really fine chopped, and I just lightly cook it. I barely cooked it in the pasta with tomatoes and stuff like that. And I served, and I was like, she's going to be, and I started before I served it. I was like, it's not too good. It's not really good. I don't think you guys gonna like it, but you know what? This is what I cook. Guys just have to, you're gonna have to eat it. Okay. Like just have some of it. Okay. You don't have to eat the whole thing, have some. So I kind of presented like that. And then they sat on the table. She's like, I love this. This is so good. What do you mean it's not good? This is so good. And I was like, well, it's got spinach on. I didn't think you're gonna like it. So we had that conversation of, well, it's not that you don't like spinach, is that you don't like when spinach is cooked this way, right? Or that way. So we play little games like that. For me, I don't like anything fishy. I can't like salmon. I can't have salmon. I cook a amazing salmon. I have never tasted in my life. I have no idea what it tastes like. And I could never eat mushrooms.
Oh, I have one of those kids in my house right
Yeah,
now.
never eat mushrooms. But I had this meal made by this chef called Kristen Kish. And she made this bolognese. She just served this bolognese, whatever her name was. And I'm like, oh, meat sauce. So I'm like, I started eating. I'm like, this is really good. But I'm like, I'm not seeing the meat. Like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, it's all mushrooms. And I'm like, Kristen, I don't eat mushrooms. She's like, well, you just did and you love it. I'm like, you're right. So it kind of like it has opened up a little bit my palate, and again gave inspiration to my daughter to talk to my daughter about it. Well, it's not that I don't like mushrooms.
Yeah.
I don't like it when it's like this or like that. So I'm kind of open up my horizons a little bit. So
Yeah, I have a son that feels that way about mushrooms. And if I chop them up really, really, really tiny in my little ninja chopper and put them in sauces, sometimes he doesn't know.
but I haven't got a salmon yet, guys. I've tried salmon.
It's hard to sneak that in.
Every time I'm like, no, can't do it.
Well, I've seen the recipes that you share on your Women of Today site, and it's hard to believe that you would ever make anything that someone wouldn't love. It all looks delicious. I want to talk a second about your Women of Today community, about your Women of Today community. I heard you describe it as an online home for all women to visit, to lend support, to pick up some guidance, to be mentors, to laugh together, to know we are not alone in this journey, to share our stories, our learnings, and create a community in our sisterhood. And that was so beautiful, Camila. We have this MomForce community that the podcast grew out of as a safe space for women to ask questions and feel that support, because not everyone has a sister or a best friend, or neighbors that they can lean on. Maybe one day we should do something together, the MomForce.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to.
I saw that you partnered with Bethany Frankel for Be Strong, raising money to help relocate families. I actually donated. I thought that was a beautiful cause. At this time where we're all looking for a way to help, there's so much need. I was so grateful for you talking about that.
Yeah.
I know that you have a foundation, you've got your community, you have got such a big heart. You probably get asked a lot with all of the resources that you have and with, how high profile you are for help on things. How do you decide where to put your time and your effort? Like, how is it best spent?
It's really hard, right? Are you asking in terms of the charity world or just in general overall?
I primarily you, Camila, because, everyone wants a piece of you and you have this big heart and you do have the resources. Like, how do you decide what you and your family are going to focus on?
It's really challenging because you want to do so much. You want to do, I remember having this conversation with somebody that they go, I do have a huge heart and I want to just help everybody. I want to do, I want to do so many things. I want to be here, be there, do this, do that. And I've done to the point where it has burned me physically, mentally, and emotionally, to where I had to learn of like, okay, you can't do good for people if you're not good. You have to be in a good place to be able to function properly, to be able to have a bigger impact on in helping people. And in a way, we had to put some things in place to help us navigate that. So look, number one, in terms of charity, we have our own organization. We started the Just Keep Living Foundation, gosh, like Levi's 13 now. We started right before he was born, so we've been doing it for over 13 years now. And really a lot of our efforts and resources and time goes into that foundation, because we really believe and seen it firsthand, the impact that has created. So we're extremely passionate about that. Then after that, we start going, okay, I'm from Brazil, so let's do some in Brazil. Let's do in Africa. We have a passion for Africa. So we have a program in Africa. People don't know this, but we have a program in Africa that we do it as well. And then I have Women of Today. Well, the core value that we have is to help each other. So we have to help. That's why, like for International Women's Day, it was very important for me to go, well, we need to act on it. We're not just a community of talking, like we actually can do the impact. Whether the impact is small or big, we can impact and in a positive way. And I think that for me personally, I had to learn to prioritize, which I'm not too good at it. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
But to have a priority of, okay, my family's first, and what comes after that. And then once I have that priority list of what comes after that, I go, okay, what else do I have room to do? What else do I have, because it's physically impossible to do it all. So I think it's just kind of picking priorities and understanding that sometimes your value is not just, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be there in person and I'm going to do this. Sometimes your value is on a phone call and giving guidance. Sometimes your value is going, you know what, I really cannot do that, but I know somebody that really fits to what you're doing. Let me introduce you guys. Let me connect you guys. So it's understanding how to give value to different things.
Yeah.
Not
And
just one way.
it's okay to say no. It's
Yeah.
okay to delegate or to hand off to somebody. But what I hear you saying and what I see you doing with your Women of Today community is recognizing like mama's got to be strong. I got to be healthy to be able to take care of my family. I know family is so important to you, and taking care of yourself, and clearly you're investing in other families, trying to strengthen families. That's what we're all about with Chapbooks. Like our mission is literally painted on the wall in our office to strengthen families. And that's everything that I try to do in my home, in my business. It's a noble cause, right?
Yeah. And for me, it's just about doing better, right? Like with Women of Today, our mission is do better for you, do better for you, do better for your family, do better for your community, do better for the world. And then if you start creating better for you practices, that's what people sometimes say, hey, you're into healthy eating, you this. I'm like, well, I'm not sure if you can say I'm into healthy eating or this and that. It's more about the better for you, because I'm a big believer that if you make better for you choices in many different areas and aspects of your life, and those are changes that you can consistently make and practice, then those are the changes that are really going to affect your life journey on the long term.
Yeah. Doing better and being consistent. Our business is all about helping families enjoy their photos, right? And you're a mom, I bet your phone is full of a million photos of your kids and your family, right? That's what we do with this little miraculous piece of technology. We take all of the photos, but it can be overwhelming. And I hear people say, I just can't, it's too much. But I preach and teach that create a daily habit, try to do better, curate your camera roll, delete the junk you don't want, like actually print your photos. Like you're going to feel like you're killing it. You're going to feel like super mom if you do this one little thing. We're never going to be the perfect mother. There's no such thing as a perfect mom.
No such a thing. No such a thing as
You can feel
perfect.
better by doing little things, right? And Chatbooks helps people handle that with their photos. Speaking of photos, do you personally have habits or systems that help you manage all of the photos that are in your phone?
I really don't. It's horrible.
Okay.
I gave up. I was starting to, and I gave up once I had this phone. I always have technology problems with technology. My energy, it's a real thing. And I know I'm gonna sound very funny right now, but it's a real thing. Technology does not necessarily work with my energy. Like it's a joke with everybody that works with me and works with us on the tech stuff. They always joke like you should work for the government because it's literally like things just stop working. It's crazy. It's pretty funny. Like I could walk into a room sometimes and stuff just stops working. And I leave the room for a little bit and it's back on work. And I walk back in again, it stops working. So we have a joke, right? But I had this phone where I had amazing, amazing, amazing photos and memories, and the phone just went black. Like couldn't turn on, couldn't recover anything. So I've kind of like I was so upset when that happened.
Please tell me you were backing them up at least.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
No, I lost everything. I lost everything. I lost all of them. And I was so upset about it. And then I went, you know what? I had to learn to let go.
Yeah.
So you know what? It's okay. So I've been having a different relationship with my photos and memories these days.
Okay.
After
Sometimes we learn to do better out of painful experiences. We're going to help you. We're going to hook you up with some chat books. We're going to help you take care of those photos and get them out of your phone. A lot of people share photos on social media. And I will say in the beginning of Instagram, where it felt like a very safe, closed community. I was sharing a lot of personal photos with friends and family, but Instagram's changed. I changed the way I use it. Also, the ages of my kids have changed, right? When they were little, they didn't care. I mean, they had no idea what was going on. And I would post photos, cute photos of them. Now they have very strong opinions. And I know you have teenagers, right? What are the ages of your kids?
well, so we have 8, 12, and 13. I'm sorry, not 8, 9, 12, and 13.
Okay. So you're just entering that phase.
Exactly.
And I'm assuming they have got some opinions about, especially because you are such a public facing family, you know, they're high profile. Do you have family rules about sharing personal things online, or how do you handle that in your family?
I mean, the kids, they don't have accounts. They don't practice social media. Um,
Which is good.
right now. So we're gonna like try to hold that as much as we can. Um, but the way that we're trying to do it, and look, it's no playbook on this, again,
As we go along.
it's all relative. But the way that we're trying to do is it's try to educate them. So when they do get into, they can be well educated instead of just throwing them in that sea of we know where it can turn into, right? So we're trying to educate them. I mean, we're trying to, we've had calls about security. We have calls about the danger that's out there and what can go wrong. We had calls of what's good about it. We show them stuff of what's, because in the beginning, like one of my kids were very like, no, this is horrible. I never want. We're like, well, yes, bad things happen in there and people do get lost in there. But actually, some really good things can happen out of it. And let me show you some of those, right? So they've gotten to learn more and more. And throughout the pandemic, we have become more active because then we're in the house. Like that was the first time throughout the pandemic that I think my kids have seen me turn a phone at me to do a video because I never did that around my kids. But now we're in the house. They're not going to school, right? We're like in the same space constantly. And we had to work. And we didn't have usually when I do the recipes and all of that for Women of Today, we have a crew that comes in. We do, few days of shooting. We do a few days of shooting and we have a crew come in and they're doing it. I'm not recording myself. And with everything that happened with, staying at home, I had to do that.
Mhm.
Matthew had to do that, right? So it really kind of changed the dynamic. And I think what we did, our choice was to involve them instead of going, no, this is bad. And then we got them involved to where like they started being the cameraman and the camera girl, girl behind the camera, recording it, editing, helping set up the set, for things. So we got them involved.
That's awesome. I love that. One of the things we talk about a lot at Chatbooks is the importance of seeing the magic every day? Because as a busy wife, mother, entrepreneur, you can go to the end of the day and be like, nothing went right. I'm a disaster. That was a mess. But all along the way, little magical things happen. And if we're so busy checking things off our to-do list or you're trying to be productive, we will miss some of those magic things sprinkled throughout. And for me, the practice is I see something, I take a second to recognize even that pile of shoes in my foyer that all the kids forgot to put away. There's magic in that because it means I have a house full of people that want to be here. And I'll snap a photo of it and ends up going into one of my chapbooks. I'm wondering, do you have that same habit or instinct? And is there maybe a magical everyday moment that you have recently captured?
I do, like my mother-in-law calls, seeing the roses in the vases instead of the dust on the table. And we try to practice that a lot with the kids and in our everyday. For me, I'm blessed to be in a place that I can see the sunset. So for me, and usually me and my mother-in-law would do the sunsets, together. That's like that break of like just a quick check-in of like, how did the day go? Like, what happened today that was, magical? Because every day has different ones, right? And I cherish, look, when I'm having a hard time myself, it gets harder to see those magical moments. But if I'm good, I try to cherish like everything and anything, the fact that we have the fact that this person say hello to me instead of, rubbing the thing, the fact that, made it to this cutoff time, you know what I mean, and deliver this thing, coming in and, we've been practicing a lot of the kids, again, like the conversation about food, cooking, and all of that started really early on with the kids. So now we encourage them that, like they make breakfast, as I mentioned before. So like them being responsible for meals and their own food and all that kind of stuff. So like coming down in the morning, that they're like cooking and doing things in the kitchen. I think that to me, it's been my magical moment. That it's like a daily thing that happens. It's coming in and going, okay. And they're usually, talking to each other, going through, having their own little thing going. And then they pause what they're doing to come and give me a hug. So those magical moments are 1,000, like they just mean so much. Yeah.
Well, I have snapped photos of that so you can hold on to it forever and they will cherish that memory also forever. Camila, what is next for you? You got the book launch. Are you going to be writing another book?
Look, that's a really good question. We talked about earlier about learning, what you can and cannot do, right? And creating that balance. Right now, I am trying to create a bit more of a balance for myself on what I can and cannot do. The kids are going to different stages of their lives, and it's requiring more of me than I ever did before. I have to take time to focus on my health right now. I have to take time to focus on a lot of different things that I didn't have to in the past. So right now, really, it was a little bit of a bittersweet in the beginning of the year because we had all these projects, all these things, and things that we were getting into. And I had to make the calls of going, guys, not doing any of it. Right now, I'm going to focus on the book, Just Try One Bite. We're going to focus on women of today and my family. And that's all that, and the foundation, the Just Keep Living Foundation. And everything else, we're going to do it, but we're going to do it with a light touch, when I can, when it's okay for my health to do it, when it's okay for my family to do it, but we're not going to be charging as strong as we've been trying to charge.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and learning from you. And you also sent us a recipe that we're going to share on our Chatbooks Instagram, strawberry hazelnut mint salad. I can't think of a better way to usher in spring. So
it's really good.
Thank you so much for being so generous. And where can people follow along with all the things that you're doing?
Yes. Look, I have my personal Instagram, Camila McConaughey. really, if you go and sign up for the newsletter on Women of Today website, that's where you get the inside scoop that people don't get to see.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you for being part of the MomForce, Camila.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Really, truly enjoyed it.